Let's see. Damn, that's a lot of dropped frames. Ouch. God damn it, streaming. Why do you gotta be so bad? Oh well. Hmm. Let's see. The internet can totally see you now. Well, I'm not sure anybody is really going to see me now, but today, or whenever you are what happen to be watching this video, this archive, we are going to be going over exactly how much Britain is a massive fucking dick. Alright? That's basically the essentials of chapter 25. And we're gonna start with apparently Africa. So now, this first part doesn't exactly go over Britain being assholes quite yet, but it is important to note. So at this point in time of the 1800s, everybody in Africa is just fucking around and being like, well, I want more cattle and money and shit and be powerful and it's gonna be fucking great. Like this guy named Shaka Zulu, who basically went to, where is it? Some fucking place in Africa. Wait. Southern Africa. And he made the hugest fucking kingdom ever. Right? This huge thing. Thousands and thousands of people pledging their allegiance to this man. So much so that this guy named, this random British asshole went to one of these things, and then they were having a celebration where there's the king, and then all around him were just masses and masses and masses of people. Like, that circle is tens of thousands of people just kind of dancing around him, praising him for some fucking reason, right? And obviously, a lot of people in Africa were scared of this motherfucker. So, there are other kingdoms, like the Swazi kingdom and the kingdom of Lesotho, which are now the kingdom of Lesotho and Swaziland. And that's basically it. And Muslims in West Africa were kind of looking around and going like, wait, we're actually doing really fucking shit right now. And so scholars took a look back. They looked at their old leaders and went like, huh. So they were actually tolerable of old traditions and let the indigenous people think what they want. And they said, that's so fucking stupid, I can't fucking believe it. And so the new Muslim reform movements started in the Hausa states. And they basically just went like, okay, now we have to make everybody a Muslim. And nobody can be anything else. We need to kill everybody else. And we're going to have this huge jihad, holy war, and it's going to be great. And so, this started up this thing that created a massive Sokoto Caliphate. Now then, while this might be the name of some random ass fucking weeb in America, the Sokoto Caliphate was actually a huge fucking Muslim state that was very much involved in slavery. Like, by 1865, that time where there was that thing that might have been called some kind of war in America. It was pretty fucking important. I don't know what the name is. And, at that time, all the slaves in America weren't even close to the amount of slaves these motherfuckers had, right? Alright, we're gonna switch colors. We're gonna switch colors for this shit. These motherfuckers had thousands? I want to try to say millions, but it doesn't give a number. So we're just gonna say millions of fucking slaves, right? They had so many slaves that the southern United States could not even compare at any time in its previous history. Okay? It was pretty fucking insane. And so now we're gonna talk about these guys that you might remember called Egypt and Ethiopia. You know, there's two kind of modern nations of Africa. Is there chat? Jesus fucking Christ. Why is okay. Anyway, so there's these assholes named could call Egypt and Ethiopia, and they're trying to modernize themselves, and they're just going like, all right, how the fuck do we become better? So Egypt started with the asshole named Muhammad Ali. Not the guy who said sting like a butterfly, float like a bee, or some other shit like that. Alright? This guy, who came after Napoleon, because Napoleon was a piece of shit. Don't tell any Napoleon fans I said that. Anyway, he basically started modernizing Egypt so that they could, you know, not be depraved, uncultured pieces of shit. And that meant, like, creating, taking advantage of Western technologies and fucking translating technical manuals. Because the one asshole that's just sitting at his desk writing a technical manual in fucking 1801 is gonna be so fucking happy he's helping his country by translating a fucking 500-page manual, right? This was the kind of shit that they were up to. And this was actually pretty important because it helped revive Arabic cultures and writings and all that great ass shit. And so after Muhammad Ali died because he was a bitch, there came his grandson, because we're not going to mention the son because he's not part of the family anymore. Anyway, his grandson was Ishmael, like the guy from Moby Dick, and he was even more hyped up into making Egypt less like a depraved, uncultured country. And he said, "My country is no longer in Africa. It is in Europe," even though it's clearly not in Europe, and he's a dumbass who doesn't understand geography. But doesn't matter. And he basically just tried to make Egypt even more like Europe by apparently getting more debts from your what? I guess it helped, because apparently the revenues increased 30-fold and exports doubled, mainly because some assholes across the Atlantic Ocean, I don't remember what their name is, were fighting some kind of civil war, and you know, since the South is fighting a civil war, they couldn't exactly export cotton, and Egypt, being a very cotton-based country, took advantage of that shit. Like they really went out. They went like, all right, motherfuckers, we got to take advantage of these assholes fighting each other as long as we can. And so they did. And they exported a shit ton of cotton. And by the time those random assholes, and I can't remember, stopped fighting each other for stupid fucking reasons, they kind of got fucked over, because the South went like, okay, let's go export cotton, hey, everybody, and then everybody's like, hey, it's the South, and Egypt went like, fuck, and so, now we're gonna move on to Ethiopia, because fuck Egypt. Right? Let's see. No, I don't want to do that. Just fuck Egypt for now. We're gonna move on to Ethiopia. So, Ethiopia had been Christian for 1500 years, unlike basically any other fucking African nation in the fucking world. And so, beginning in the time of the 1840s, they started buying weapons. And they started arming themselves. And this guy named Emperor... Emperor... Asshat started getting some he was going all out, just like that Muhammad Ali guy, and he was like, we gotta fucking modernize. And so Emperor Asshat, he, with the aid of some Protestant missionaries, he had his craftsmen make shit. No, what's wrong with my Wacom tablet? Shit. Uh-oh. I might have fucked up here. Okay. Fuck you too, Wacom tablet. Go fuck yourself. Okay. We're gonna use a mouse. Anyway, Emperor Asshat had his Protestant missionaries and his craftsmen make this giant fucking cannon that shot a half-ton shell. God, you can see the quality of this go down as I have to try to use my mouse. It had a half-ton shell. And my parents refused to shut up. Anyway, so, and then they kind of went like, I need more technology. So he decided to take a couple of assholes from Britain hostage. And he said, you will give me technology. You will give me all of the technology that you will possibly give me because I've got your people hostage. And you will not get them back unless you give us better guns. And the British went like, yeah, how about you go fuck yourself? Will this work now? Maybe. Alright. We're gonna try to fix this real fast. Shit. Maybe if I unplug it and plug it back in. I don't wanna do this without my Wacom tablet. Maybe it has something to do with that important update. Hey! We got the tablet back. What up? Shit, boys, what up? Anyway, so now, yeah, Ethiopia kind of tried to steal technology from Britain. The Britain basically fucking steamrolled them. And then another guy, I'm gonna call him Emperor Asshat II. That guy basically continued on the previous guy's work, and he said, alright, let's keep up with this modernizing thing. And he basically started bringing back people into the Ethiopian country, except for these couple of assholes in the highland, called the Showa Kingdom, ruled by King Menelik. That's everything you have to know about these two. Alright. Next up, European penetration is the actual name of this section. And, all that happened. So, European... My fucking button doesn't work anymore. Anyway, European penetration, right? Basically, what happened was Algeria was fucked up the ass by France and completely steamrolled, and like thousands and thousands of people were massacred, and a couple of explorers named some guy named Livingstone and Stanley adventured across Africa and figured out shit about rivers. And that's it. Now then, let's talk about abolition. Because that thing was kind of cool, right? So, apparently, going back on this. So, let's go over abolition. So, remember when I talked about when I said we were going to talk about Britain being assholes? Well, that's not the time yet. Here, Britain were actually being pretty cool people, right? Because they went from the biggest slave traders to being the biggest abolitionists in the world. Like, they were into this shit. They were like, alright, fuck slavery. We will become the abolitionists of the world. And the world looked at them and went like, but slavery's cool. I get lots of things from slavery. And Britain went like, no! And so they created patrols to patrol the coast of Africa, catching slave ships and looking at random ships going like, you got any slaves in there? And like, no, we don't have any slaves in here at all. This is totally wine barrels. And then they'd rip open the wine barrels and they're like, no, you have slaves. And that isn't actually probably what happened, but that would have been funny. But they did just patrol the coast of Africa, freeing slaves. So much so that the entire country of Sierra Leone was created, basically, of Britain dumping recaptives, which was the name of freed slaves, onto a place, and that was Sierra Leone, and that became... Yeah! Oh, wait, no, they're not talking to me. And that basically became a huge place for free slaves to thrive and flourish, and now that's one of, like, the poorest countries in the world or some shit. But we're gonna ignore that. And also, because Africans could no longer trade each other for money, they had to trade something else. And the main thing you need to learn about this is palm oil. And that's basically it. That's going to be a quiz question or test question. What do they trade now that they can't trade each other anymore? Well, you know what? You know the answer. It's going to be palm oil. It's going to be that shit. Like, that's it. Flipping pages. Okay, and then so, since the British were patrolling the coast of Africa, going like, you got any slaves? Oh, motherfucker. You can't get slaves past me. And so basically guys to the south, like places called Zanzibar. Metal Gear Solid fans take note, it's not that Zanzibar. And this random asshole named Tipu Tip. We're still trading slaves, this time to that Sokoto Caliphate from earlier. And they were basically just still trading slaves because it makes lots of money. And, you know, and they were basically, fuck you, Britain, I can do whatever I want. And then, by 1873, Britain said, fuck you, and then they stopped trading slaves. But they did become, like, huge empires. Like, they were called secondary empires, because Britain was the ultimate empire builder, right? But, yeah. And that Tip guy was, like, this guy who made a huge empire, and, like, was apparently pretty cool. Anyway, doesn't matter. Now, we're going to talk about India. Under British rule. Because, you know, that always sounds like it's going to go well. So, the first thing that happened into India, Britain was, I wonder... Anyway. And, so let's see. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah! you remember those Mughal guys from like years ago that we haven't talked about? Well, they're basically fucking destroyed by now. Nobody cares about them. It doesn't matter. This doesn't matter anymore. So basically, now the people that controlled states were the Nawabs and the Sepoys, which were basically controlled by the British. First, by the British from the East India Company. East India Company being these motherfuckers who kind of went like, India! Ooh, that place looks like a good place to get some fucking shit done. And so they employed the Nawabs, which were the princes there, and the Sepoys, which were soldiers that they trained from there, and they basically gave them the hugest middle finger and took over India very, very slowly. Like, over time, they continually fucked more people up the ass, getting more and more land for their fucking empire. And I think that's how that's working right now. Yep. And until the British government were like, hey, the fuck are you doing? We're the guys that fucking make empires, and they kicked the East India Company out, and basically left everything the same. And the British basically just took over from there. And so they tried, and both the East India Company and the British government tried to westernize India for some westernize, and there's quotations there because basically all that did was help everybody but most of the people, right? You know how there's like 99% serfs or some shit in Russia? Well, it's not that bad, but you know, the caste system made it so that most of the people were still swimming around in their own shit, dying of cholera. Okay, because that's basically what happened a lot. People died of cholera from swimming in their own shit. And it's not a euphemism either. I'm not lying. They swam around in their own shit. And they died from cholera. And so there was a rebellion from the Sepoys. The Sepoys right here. Right. And the Sepoys, they seeing as they had rifles now and they were trained and they were again quote westernized. They kind of looked at England and went like, wait, they're massive assholes. And they tried to rebel. Now, it's called a rebellion because a little bit more than soldiers did it, so it's not a mutiny. And then some Indian historians call it a revolution, and like, who the fuck knows, alright? This came from a lot of and the rebellion came from a lot of problems, including like, wait, why the fuck are we following around some white guys, and like, soldiers were ordered to use their teeth to tear open some ammo cartridges, which were greased with animal fat. And so Hindus were offended because if the fat came from cattle, it was stupid because they thought cattle was sacred. And if the Muslims were offended because if the fat came from pigs, they were like, fuck that, because pigs were considered unclean. And the British went like, why the fuck do I have to deal with all these religions? And got rid of that policy, but that didn't stop anything because, you know, the whole problem was some shit. And then they started rebelling and on. Let's see. Is nobody watching? Alright, cool, nobody's watching. Nothing to do with that shit. Anyway. And so, basically after this, actual Britain, came in and went like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And so, 1858, actual Britain comes in and goes like, fuck you. And Queen Victoria guarantees all Indians protection of law and shit. And like, and then Queen Victoria is like the Empress of India and some shit. And like, viceroys put on these durbars, which were massive fucking parties. And then there's this thing called the Indian Civil Service, which basically said, alright, motherfuckers, we gotta get some people to be the law in this nation. And a huge amount of white dudes in England went like, fuck yeah, and then all the Indians that wanted to do it went like, hey, I want to do this, and then they were told, hey, you gotta test in England, and like, I don't have money to go to England. And they said, fuck you. And so, and underneath the white guys, though, were like a lot of just normal Indian dudes from higher caste, and, you know, for most of India, everything was still shit, and, you know, the Britain didn't really look upon Indians as favorably, as the commander-in-chief of the Indian Army said, it is the consciousness of the inherent superiority of the European which had won for us India, and however well-educated and clever a native may be, and however brave he may proved himself, I believe that no rank we can bestow on him would cause him to be considered an equal of the British officer. Racism! I can't do sound effects. I'm a very low-budget show. Oh shit, I missed this part. Apparently I also made railroads and shit. Huh. But yeah, mostly people were... and after that, mostly people swam around their own shit and died. And then there's this huge Indian nationalism build-up by this guy named Ramohan Roy. Let me write it down. I should write it down normally. This guy named, Ramohan Roy, random guy who said, hey, let's be together, man. Let's chill, be together, fight against, well, not exactly fight, but like be against these British assholes, kind of. I didn't read it too well, but yeah. And a bunch of the high caste people went like, here, I see what those Americans are doing over there. Let's make demands, and they made the Indian National Congress, which did jack shit. It was kind of like a starting point, I guess you can say. When like higher castes went like, hey, we want to make these demands, and they're like, oh, we want to have unity with everybody, but you know, most people were still swimming around in their own shit, dying. So not much is going to happen there. Next up, the rest of the British Eastern Empire, like South Africa and Singapore and Burma. Do I need to see anything? Basically, all these places were just taken over. Oh god, why is it so bad? Anyway, all these places were taken over by Britain for their free trade. That's it. And then in South Africa, there's these Afrikaners, spelled like so. That's not a typo. And so these Afrikaners were like, hey, I fucking hate you. And they went on this great trek to get more land, and they got more land, and that was cool, I guess. And so basically what was happening with Britain was they wanted more fucking money, okay? They want all of them big bucks. And so these assholes, they're like, alright, let's colonize everything we can to make a quick buck. And so they did. And basically what happened was the colonies would make raw materials, right? Raw materials that we would send to the normal nations, to the Western nations. There we go. That's the word for it. Normal. Any nation's a normal nation. Well, or none of them are, depending on how you look at it. But the Western nations would create the actual industrialized materials. Like they would make the actual shit. They would make the actual shit. Like the colonies would make the cotton, Europeans would make the clothes. That was basically it. Right? I can't think of the word right now, but that's basically what happened. Right? And so that's actually, technically, that's even more problems for for each, because like India is making cotton now and shit. And so now we get to talk about land down under, called land down under of Australia and New Zealand. And after we talk about the Clipper ship, Clipper ship was a better fucking ship. That's all you need to know. And so now we talk about Australia, which used to be a prison colony until, okay, actually I need to start drawing things. So Australia, that's totally Australia. Used to be a penal colony until they found gold. Then it was a gold colony. Then it wasn't, and then it was just a normal fucking colony. Right? Where people came and they wanted to settle down there and do shit for some fucking reason. And New Zealand, New Zealand is basically the same fucking thing but smaller. And also without the penal colony part, I think. Yeah. And also they killed seals instead. And they were also gold colonies. So, yeah. That's a thing. Is that it? Alright, we're almost done. And basically all the indigenous people were kicked out like they normally are everywhere else. They were killed, kicked out. Basically everybody's racist to them. All the white guys are the masters, blah 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 blah. And so they needed to get more laborers. And so since slavery was kind of getting destroyed, people from India and China were becoming the main laborers who served under contracts of indenture. And these assholes under the contracts of indenture, they just worked. And that was the whole working thing. And now we're done. And so, chapter 25, England is a dick. And slavery is gone. Sorta. Kinda. You know. And so thank you for watching, or not, or kind of. Yeah? You might be watching this later, I don't know. Peace.